Hello, very good morning, all. Let's start the session by another 2 to 3 minutes. Let's wait for other participants to join. We'll wait for another 2 minutes and then we'll resume back. Once again, good morning, all. Let's start at another 2 minutes. Thank you for joining this demo class. Yesterday, we were talking about what is software architecture, what are the type of architectures are present in the current market trend, okay, what we are focusing about on this entire course, right? Let's start a quick review, recap for another 7 minutes. Then let's jump on to the new topic for the day. Let me quickly go and share the PPT, you people. Hope you guys can able to see my PPT, right? That's about yesterday's PPT, where I was talking about Spring Boot and microservices. The people who are joining newly into this demo session, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Mohammed Yasir. I have a 17 plus year of experience in banking and BFSI domain. So I'm working for bank where I love to solve the problems for the bank and their customers, especially by designing strong and flexible systems using Spring Boot and microservices. That's my expertise. So yesterday we were talking about the types of software architecture present in the market. What is the difference? What is the difficulties we are overcome by microservices architecture? What's the advantage of it, challenges, and what are the components are present inside the Spring Echo world, and what is the need of Spring Boot, right? So let's quickly overcap that, and then let's jump on to the today's topic. Okay, we started with the software architecture because this is a base one should learn before getting into any of the software architecture. So what is software architecture? As I told you, it is a fundamental thing or discipline for creating any of the software system. It's kind of how the house plan, right? How construction of the new plan is coming up. The same way, when you are building any of the app or web-based application, you have to design your software design completely. What is completely? It should be scalable enough or secure enough, or it will be performing enough to handle the loads. So basically how the components or models will interact each other or communicate each other to achieve the desired functionality and performance. That's about the software architecture. And what are the types of architecture is present? There are a lot of architectures are present in the market. So I want to pick some of the things I know I want to talk about that. The classical example is like monolithic architecture. And then we born with the service oriented architecture. Then it got evolved in event driven architecture. Now finally, we are in the microservices world now. So everything has their own pros and cons. I don't want to degrade any of the architecture. Everything has serving their own purpose. We're just comparing the architecture and what is the pros and concerns about that each and every architecture. As a classical or traditional software architecture, this monolithic is built as a single unit of the code. So you have a single code repo where all your modules are tightly coupled as a single unit. As I told you, all the component, what is all the component? It's like your UI, just maybe the JSPs or servlets, business logic, which is controllers, right? And database access layer. So all the components are tightly coupled and deployed together as a single WAR file into any of the application server. So I'm just representing as entire as a single unit. It's a tightly coupled modules. Hope you people already aware of that. The traditional desktop application, some earlier web applications also running on the monolithic architecture. I do have seen a lot of monolithic architecture kind of code still in the production actively running. So each has their pros and concerns. As I told you, a process is very easy for the development and deployment performance. Why it is easy? It is a single unit of thing. That's why it is easy. You can easily check out the code and you can start the code with the multiple developers. Whenever you are starting the any new project from the scratch for the startup or something, you can always go with the monolithic architecture. It's very simple. You can go because you don't want to set up the major environment setup, right? It's not at all required actually. So you have a single source code, just check out and do the things accordingly. And it is a simplicity. Its entire application as a build as a single unit. But it has some flaws actually: scalability, technology stack limitations, and fault isolations. Once you choose the technology stack as a Java, .NET, or Python, anything, you have to always stick with the single technology stack limitation. You can't further switch the technologies. And then we saw the service-oriented architecture. What is that? Service-oriented architecture. It's we identify the major modules in the monolithic architecture. Then slowly we are converting those as a services, independent services. Those those services are communicated via the service buses, network service buses, or enterprise service buses. All the communications will be being communicated via enterprise service buses. There are multiple chances of network drop, or you have to spend a lot of money on the setting up the environments and message brokers or service registries. It has a pros: flexibility, scalability, and maintainability. Then we saw the microservice architecture where we are decomposing the single unit of code into a smaller, loosely coupled services. The each service responsible for their own business capability and can be developed, deployed, and scaled independently. As I told you, we identify the major models from the single unit, maybe a login model, order model, inventory model, or notification model. Based on that, you decompose the code and make it as a separate independent microservices as an independent component. The communication between each microservices are happening via HTTP REST or messaging systems like asynchronous process. All the things are being happen. There is a lot of flexibility to choose the technology stacks here. For example, the login model may be developed in Java. The order service not really required to build on Java. You can be Python, it can be .NET, anything can be. It can be platform agnostic. So this architecture promotes the flexibility, scalability, and availability, ability to adapt the different technology for the different microservices. That's a pictorial representation about the different architecture here. As I told you, it's a monolithic, it's a simple thing, single unit, and then service-oriented architecture where the communications will be communicated between the two different microservices. Sorry, not microservices, it's a services. We can say it's a services in the world of service-oriented. And then the microservices born where all the small entities are decomposed and then deployed as a single independent unit as a microservices. Then we saw microservices. Why microservices? I said it has a lot of advantages. It's, as I told you, it's a small and well chosen deployable units. So login is here, separate microservices, right? Login order model is a separate microservices. So it is loosely coupled microservices. Because of that, it is easily scalable. If you want to bring up the order management into 5 of the embedded servers or Tomcat servers, if you want to deploy on the fly, you can able to achieve it very easily. You don't want to scale all the independent microservices. It's not required. Whichever the microservices you were interested to scale, that can be easily scalable. And it is also flexible. As I told you, if any of the microservices is brought down, then it will not impact the dependent microservices. But in terms of monolithic architecture, if any of the defect code is deployed into the application server, then it will be brought down all the application, which will be the customer impact. But in terms of microservices, it's not like that. If any of the microservices is down because of some fault code or something, then it will not impact we can able to handle it. We can able to handle the particular error by using the fallback approach. That maybe I'll explain in detail in the hands-on session. So it is easily deployed. And it has some challenges also, as I told you, the complexity, because you have broken the single unit of code into a multiple microservices now. Now, the thing is, you have to communicate. You have to communicate multiple distributed systems now. How do you call each other? Via networks. So definitely there are chances are there in the network drop. And when it comes to data management and complexity, each and every microservices has their own database. So maintaining the data consistency is really a challenge. It has some infra cost to set up the environment, because you are going to deploy multiple components into the servers now. You have to invest some money on the servers. Only then you can able to deploy the components into the servers. One should always make their application should be secure, right? So that we need to put the security layer on top of your application. Don't worry, we have your challenges, but we have a solution on hand. So how are you going to manage all this complexity? Don't worry, we have a session to cover up in the code on. And then we saw what is Spring Boot and why it is required. It has a less configuration compared to the Spring, and it has ready-made embedded services ready, and has the feature of auto configuration and dependency injection. I'm going to explain today's class about auto configuration and dependency injection. And then production ready features. What are the production ready features are being available in the Spring Boot? And the cloud native capabilities. If you want to promote or you want to deploy your Spring Boot application into any of the cloud provider, yes, that can be happen on the fly. That's why Spring Boot is very much important and very easy to develop, deploy, and promote it to the production. And then we saw some couple of differences between Spring and Spring Boot, but I have detailed session today about what is that we have overcome in the Spring Boot world compared to Spring. For the quick recap, it's not XML based, it is completely a configuration based. So it's a kind of abstraction on top of the Spring Echo world, so that the Spring Boot can able to freely access the features of Spring Echo world. And moreover, it is a developer friendly, because most of the things are already done by the Spring Boot framework itself. How it is done today, I will going to explain, okay, in the slides. And then we have completed the first part of the session, and then we stepped into the second item. Let me share the another PPT for that day 2. I'm just sharing the second PPT. Let's quickly overcome. Yeah, you can able to see my day 2, right? Maybe. And then we saw the web services. Okay, what is why we should learn the web services, right? So now you have broken down your single unit of code into multiple microservices. How this communication will happen between the two microservices is the question. That is why we should learn web services. It provides a solid foundation and understanding of fundamental concepts. How this only then you can able to learn the concepts of Spring Boot. This web services can be used their protocols called SOAP or REST. If you want to integrate any of the external systems, like as I told you yesterday, it is a weather forecasting system example. If you want to integrate, right, if you need to talk to that particular provider. During that time, you can use the web services, any of the protocol you can use, whether it is a SOAP or whether it is a REST. And then we talked about the API design and documentation, how it will be useful in terms of request and response structure understanding with provider and consumer. Moreover, it is a industry relevance right now in the market. It is actively working in the production, and then for our career advancement. And then we saw what are the things that are happened, right? As part of the web services, it is using the protocols called HTTP, XML, SOAP, WSDL. WSDL is a service definition, right? And it's a platform agnostic, right? For the communication, any of the .NET application can talk to Java application without any issues. That is why we are calling it as a platform agnostic method of communication. And then we saw key terminologies like service provider. What is that? Service consumer, definition, and what is the transportation protocol we are using, and message exchange format, right? This is what the service definition documentation looks like. Okay, what is the request and response format, request structure, response structure, what is the response structure field, what are the expected response fields it will contain, all the things will be discussed, right? And then we saw this types of web services like SOAP oriented simple object access protocol. And then we saw RESTful representational state transfer protocol. We have some other things also, JSON RPC, remote procedure call, and XML remote procedure call. But interest of the time, I have picked SOAP and REST. So what is SOAP? It's a kind of XML based, right? XML based service. And it has a clear request and response structure one should follow, must. Without you are not met that service definition documentation, your request will fail to process. It's strictly document based. You must follow the structure. And then we saw the transportation, how the transportation will happen in the SOAP world. The SOAP over MQ and SOAP over HTTP. There are two kind of mode of transportation is supported by SOAP web services. And then we saw the WSDL file, web service definition language, where the structure definition fields about request and response mapping, everything we have seen, right? This is why the same WSDL file looks like. So what are the endpoints are being exposed by the provider web services, and what is the structure of the request and response, and then format of it. So once you get that WSDL file, you can understand what are the endpoints are exposed from the provider services, and you can easily understand it, and then you can start the development. And then we saw RESTful web services is a resource-based application. What are the communication happening? The HTTP methods like get, post, put, everything will be being used by the RESTful web services. It will not support the MQ. It must use the HTTP methods, right? We saw this data exchange. There is no format, but in right now in the market, we are using the JSON as a popular format data exchange form. And then we saw it only supports the HTTP. And then we saw the service definition. There is no standard at all. Previously, we were using WADL, and then now we are using the Swagger UI for get to know what are the endpoints are exposed by the provider web services. You can able to easily test that also. In the Swagger UI, you can able to test the provider API service also. That is the advantage of Swagger. Okay, and then we saw the what is the difference between the SOAP versus REST. As I told you, SOAP is very strictly we have to follow the service definition documentation guide. But REST is not like that. It's an architectural approach, but still you have to follow the request and response mappings, what the provider service is giving to us. And then we saw data exchange. SOAP is a XML based and REST is a HTTP based. And then we saw the service definition in terms of SOAP world, it is WSDL file. In the RESTful web service, there is no clear documentation in the market, but we are using the Swagger UI, where you can see the RESTful endpoints and request and response is expectation. And then we saw transportation about SOAP. SOAP is supporting the HTTP as well as the MQ. REST only supporting the HTTP alone. Those are things we have seen yesterday's demo class. And then today we will be starting the new topic. Okay, so what is Spring Boot? Why we are learning it? What is the advantage of it? All the things we are going to learn today. Okay. Thank you once again for joining this session. Let me go and quickly share the things. 1 minute. Give me a second, guys. So I just want to repeat the one statement again. There's a general information. Okay, so one should understand this must. Okay, so I'm just sharing the general information what Logical Lab technology is sharing. Okay, the first 3 session will be a free to attend, and from the 4th session onwards, Zoom meeting link will be shared. Maybe I think I'm sharing the wrong presentation. 1 minute, give me a second. I think I need to look for another one. Yep, here you go. Yes, let me share the things once again. Yeah, here you go. Yes. I'm just sharing the PPT. Okay, the first 2 session will be free to attend. We are in the 2nd session now. And from 3rd session onwards, Zoom meeting link will be shared to the registered participants only. The first day, 1 session recording will be uploaded into the YouTube channel. I think it is already uploaded. You can go and watch the YouTube channel and you can watch it. We will share the link for the WhatsApp community. I think from day 2 recording session will be shared only to the paid participants. No batch shifting and no amount refund. All the communication, you can join the WhatsApp community and follow the announcement option so that you will be getting updated the latest information. So all the recording notes or any diagram, if I am sharing, then it all will be available in the LMS graphic. So you can feed to reach the support at Logic Lab Technologies, or you can call the provided numbers for any of the enquiries. Thank you. It's a general information I would like to share for you guys. Okay, let me go back 1 step back, and then I'm going to share that today's demo class. Okay, so let's go for the minute. Yeah, here you go. I'm just sharing the PPT. Give me a second. Yeah, done. Yeah. So we are in the Spring Boot introduction, world before Spring Boot. And what is the required softwares for test that Spring Boot? And then what is Spring Boot? What is Spring Initializer? Setting up the IDE with the Spring Boot project. And let's create again first Hello World program today. Okay. As I told you, I always start the day with the motivational quote. Okay, something motivation supposed to be there in our mind, only then we can reach the targets easily. So today quote is like, the middle of the difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. That's true statement. Yeah, let's start the day. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the Spring Boot in deep. Okay, setting up the Spring project before Spring Boot was not easy. Why it is not easy? It has multiple factors. I'm going to explain each and every point, pain points. So one should understand in the Spring world, only then you can feel the comfort of Spring Boot. So when I was joined as a developer for one of the company where the application is running on the Spring technology, actually. It has very complex Spring application they built. When I got a chance for work for their particular job, the particular project opportunity, it has lot of setup, lot of environment setup to bring up that application into my local host. I almost spent 5 to 6 days full time to just to set up that particular application running on my local. So what will happen here? The complexity. The complexity one should face to at least to bring up their application just to run your, bring up your local host. That's it. I'm not doing anything development. The whole 5 day with help of others also, I'm telling, with help of my lead also, I was not able to bring up that particular application within a day or within hours. I spent almost 5 days to bring up that particular piece of application because that much complexity, that much configuration, the Spring application is expecting from the developer. You have to sacrifice a lot of things in terms of configuration, in terms of deployment into the external Tomcat, all the web.xml, all the things should be actively or properly configured. Otherwise, one single piece of misinformation which will lead and it will not start up. Your Tomcat will fail to start up, right? That's a problem with the Spring-based application earlier days. Also, when you are ready for the production, you need to set of configuration. You have to do it manually in terms of security, in terms of data management, all the things you have to configure a lot of things before we have production ready application. I put the sample Spring application pom.xml where you can see here what are all the dependencies I want to mention here in the pom.xml. I have to clearly put all the dependencies. For example, if I want to build a web MVC application, I need to clearly mention the transitive dependencies in my project. For example, if I want to work with JSON in the web MVC project, then I have to clearly put the dependency for web MVC with the version, and then I have to mention the faster XML JSON because I'm working with JSON now, right? So I have to mention the transitive dependency of faster XML JSON core here with the compatible version. The challenge is my web MVC version 5.3.10 should not break the dependency of the Jackson faster XML dependency. It should be highly compatible. Only then it supports my application. Otherwise, it will say the incompatible version, then it will be not work. So here the problem is one should understand version, what version will support each other, right? That is the challenging part in Spring World. Also, you always upgrade the version if it is not updated properly. So you have to keep on updating the latest version in the pom.xml. Otherwise, it will be through the incompatible error in the later point. To identifying the version compatibility is here another pain point for the developer. This is totally overcome by the Spring Boot Starter project. I'll explain everything in detail, but you have to understand this is the one of the pain point what the Spring developer will face. Okay. And then another pain point is like configure the dispatcher servlet for the Spring MVC project. So here, each and everything we are going to the web.xml and then you are declaring the front controller, right? Dispatcher controller. So what controller it is, what are the things you have to pre-filter or post-filter, all the things you have to manually write the code. And you have to configure that in the web.xml. So one is the dispatcher servlet processing all the requests. So based on the things we have to forward to the respective controllers. So here an additional layer is coming into the picture that is for configuring the dispatcher server where Spring Boot is automatically taking care of the things. And then we saw Spring configuration. What is Spring configuration actually? So you have to clearly declare after your controller processing it, what is the view resolver you have to put it, which JSP file you want to display your result sets into the customer. So all the things you have to make it configure, only then this will join together works. Right? So each and everything you have to clearly declare or configure, right? Only then you can end result will be reach the customer. As I told you, the version compatibility is another issue for the Swing configuration world. Not only that, we have a non-functional challenges also. In terms of error handling, in terms of logging, in terms of monitoring. There are so many things you have to configure in terms of error handling. If any of the problem happen in your controller class, then what is the error resolver or error view controller? You have to write it, how to map that error into the error JSP, what error code, what is the JSP you want to display, what is the content you need to display, all the things you have to handle manually in terms of Spring World. And also you have to configure in the what kind of monitoring you want to declare and manipulate it in the Spring Boot Spring application. That is also another non-functional challenges. Then we saw Spring Boot. Okay, so what is Spring Boot actually? As I told you, again, it is a Java-based framework only to create standalone production ready Spring based application quickly and with minimal configuration. That's a word is very, very important. The minimal configuration, because you don't want to spend your entire energy in the configuration. So here Spring Boot is expecting the minimal configuration, the required configuration from the developer. Rest of the dependencies, compatible version compatibility, embedded server, external server dependencies, all the things will be Spring Boot itself taking care of it, so that the developer can clearly focus on his development work very peacefully. Okay. So another things, it is an abstraction layer on top of the Spring Echo World. Whatever the Spring Echo World providing, all the modules can be easily usable by the Spring Boot application. That's why I'm putting the word abstraction here. So today I'm going to do a small hands-on, like a kind of hello world today, so that you can feel that comfort what the Spring Boot is giving to us. So for that, I need some dependent software tools to download. People know that the Maven is a critical, right, build tool. One should have to build the application, right? So I need a Maven installation version 3.xx anything, okay? And then we need a IntelliJ, as I told you yesterday. IntelliJ ID only I'm going to use for this particular course. And you can choose the community edition. It's a free actually. I'm using that only. And then as part of the session, I'm going to use the Java 17 because I'm going to use the latest Spring Boot technology, that is Spring Boot 3.0. That's why I want to use the Java 17 because Spring Boot 3 only supports the Java 17 onwards. So you can also install the Java 17 IntelliJ community edition and then Maven installation. Maybe more Maven, maybe you have rest of the things you can just install it so that we can have a small project today. Okay, so now I'm going to Spring initializer and then I'll explain you how you have to create a Spring Boot application in the Spring initializer. 1 minute, I'm just feeding the charger. Yeah. So how to set up the project, how to bring up your Tomcat server, I'll be showing you now. Okay. Without wasting the time, let's go back to the Spring initializer. Let me give you a second. Yeah, I'm sharing the Spring initializer. Give me a second. 1 minute. I'm sharing the, yeah. So this is the project, okay? Spring initializer, okay? So whenever you want to create your Spring Boot application setup, you go to start.spring.io. It's nothing but the Spring initializer, where you can choose the what kind of configuration you want to create. Okay, for example, in this project, I have a Maven as a build tool, right? Some people use the Kotlin, some people can use Groovy. So now I'm interested on the Maven. So I choose on the Maven. Okay. What language I want to build the microservices? So I want to use the Java as a microservices, right? So language as Java. And then we have a lot of Spring Boot version compatibility here. So you can choose either, but I prefer go with the standard and proven technology, which is 3.29 or 3.3. Anything you can choose. Okay. And then we have a project metadata where you can create the group. Group is nothing but the project, right? So I can putting com.logic labs. Okay, I'm just putting the logic labs and then you can for a demo. This is nothing but artifact. Let it be. So here I'm going to take it as a what kind of demo? It's Spring Boot demo, right? Spring Boot hyphen demo. Okay, so now I'm just taking that Spring Boot demo. Fine. That's it. So what kind of packaging if you want to do it? So whether it is a WAR file or jar file, I'm interested on the jar file. I'm choosing the jar file. Okay. So group is nothing but the just a kind of what kind of logic you want to put it into the project structure. Okay, that's why I'm putting com.logic lab. You can free to type anything. So artifact ID is nothing but the project name. Okay. And then this is the way your package name looks like com.logic.lab Spring Boot right demo. And then I'm choosing the packaging as a jar file and what version I want to select. It is a Java 17 because I'm selecting the Spring Boot 3, right? So I'm just selecting 17. And then we have right side, you have a panel where you have the allowed to add the dependency into the project. Okay, so now I'm going to do a small demo right today for the Spring Boot. For that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the web, Spring Web. The Spring Web is the one of the main dependency one should have to build the web, including RESTful application using the Spring MVC. Okay, and uses Tomcat as a default embedded container. Okay, so whenever you choosing the RESTful application, RESTful web services application, right? That time you can go and add this dependency. Why we this dependency? To build the web including RESTful application using the Spring MVC. Not only that, it is adding the default embedded Tomcat as a container, right? Application container service. So I'm just adding this Spring Web as a main dependency for my demo class. Okay. So we have a lot of dependencies are there. Okay. So slowly I'm going to introduce you all. Okay. And then you will be understanding why it is required. What is the transitive dependency required to add it. Okay. So for example, you can go for a JPA. JPA is for understanding the Java persistent API to persisting the record into the your database. Okay. So like that, you, whatever the dependency you require, all the dependency can be added here. Okay. You can have Eureka server, all the things are there. Okay. Not only that, but slowly I'll introduce those dependencies. Then I'll do the hands-on with you. Okay. So right now for my demo, for simple demo, I'm just going to use the Spring Web as a dependency. Okay. Then you have a option to generate the project. Look at here. I mean, I'm just minimizing. Look, there is a option to generate, which will give you the package, the project downloadable package. It will be giving you. You can also option to explore, right? So what explore button is? How the form.xml or project structure looks like in this particular section. Okay, for example, if you go and give on the explorer, you can here you can see the dependencies. Okay, so here by default this test package will be add on to test your application, right? Spring Boot application. If you want to test it, this package will be come along with you, right? Okay, it's a default package. Test package. Okay, text we can say as a test dependency. Okay, and then this is the main dependency we added as part of this demo project. Okay, so what is that? Spring Boot started web. So now you can freely check what is the entire dependency we added. So we added the group ID as a, this is a default one, Spring Boot. Okay, Spring framework.boot, and then this is the parent pom. What is parent pom? I'll explain in the next class. Okay, next session, maybe after the break, we'll having. Okay, this section I'm just avoiding now. I have a detailed session on that. So here you go. So that is a group ID we have mentioned, right? com.logiclabs, and what is the artifact? Artifact is nothing but the project name. And by default, the version will come as the snapshot version. Okay, so you can also customize it. And the same name as a artifact ID, that is nothing but the project name. And you can have a description about the project intention. Here I'm going to pick the demo. That's why it is giving a demo project for the Spring Boot. And then we have here properties where the Java version is declared, right? We chosen the 17 as a Java version in the Spring initializer. That's why it is giving the property as a 17, right? And then, as I told you, it's a transitive dependency. We chosen the starter web as one of the dependency. This test package will be always come along with you to test the application, right? And then we have a small plugin for the Maven to build the things. Okay, so all the things are placed now. I'm just closing it, and then I'm going back to the previous page where I can able to generate the product project. Okay, 1 minute. It started downloading. Look at here. It started downloading here. Okay, it's done now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open that. Maybe I'll extract it and I'll show you that. Okay. Let me give me 1 second. I'm just extracting it. Yes, I have done the extraction. Let me go back and then put it into my project. Okay, give me a second. One classes hands-on. Yes. Okay, now what I'm going to do. So I'm sharing the project folder. Okay, I have a hands-on folder where I have just pasted this Spring Boot demo. Okay, and now I just extracted the zip file. That's it. Nothing else. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the IntelliJ and then I'll show you. Yeah. So let me share my IntelliJ screen here. Hope you people can share, see my IntelliJ, right? There is no problem, right? I think, yeah, I think I'm sharing the IntelliJ. Yes. So this one, leave it. Maybe it's a previous class actually. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open our Spring Boot demo, right? So let me go back. Okay, so we have a batch and we have a hands-on. Yeah, this is the project I extracted. Okay, so I'm just choosing the Spring Boot demo as one of the project, right? I'm trusting that project. Okay, so I want to open it in a new window. Okay, so let me close my previous project. Okay, so this is the one thing. You can able to see my screen, right? Spring. Yeah. So I just imported the project Spring Boot demo, which I got generated by using the Spring Initializer, right? That project, I'm just imported it. How do I import it? A file open and then I go to the location. I just trusted the project and imported into it, right? That's it. In the right side, you can able to see the other add-ons and mainly I want to focus about the Maven. Let me bring up into the first thing. It's not allowing. I think it's not allowing me. I think, okay, let me, no problem. So I'm interested on the Maven, right? So Maven is a build tool. Okay, as a project build tool where you can see, yeah. Now, maybe before I'm explaining in detail, let's create the small project. Okay, so when I'm importing this Spring Boot into my IntelliJ, right? I can have a project structures like SRC, and then outside I can see the pom.xml, right? So in the pom.xml is the one where we are going to declare our dependencies, right? All the dependencies are being declared here. I already explained in the Spring Initializer page. The same thing is you can see here, right? Okay. Now I'm going to the SRC folder where I can see the main and test. In the main folder, one can put the Java source code. And in the resources folder, you can see the application properties and required. Just if you want to add the JSON files also, you can put it, no problem. As part of stubbing, I'll tell you what is that. Okay, in the later section. So right now, the main folder is Java. Under main, you can see the Java and resources. In the Spring, in the Java classes, if you want to create, you can always go into this package and put it. Whether you can create a new package or if you want to add the class into the same structure, it's up to you. Okay, so right now I have only the one class which is called Spring Boot main application. Okay, it's a main application where you can see the main method, one main method where the flow starts. Okay, so I have here one main application Java, which is nothing but the Spring Boot application. Whenever you are annotating the class with Spring Boot application, it means that it's a main class. Okay, it's a main class where the your Tomcats application will picks up and start up this project. Okay, that's one thing. And then we have another folder called resources where you can find the application.properties. What is that application.properties? Where you can see what is the application name for the particular entity. or project or module. Okay. So now we named as a Spring Boot hyphen demo. So like that, if you want to mention the server port, by default, the Tomcat server will run on the 8080 port, right? It's a default Tomcat port 8080. Okay. So now if you want to tweak the port number, you can also do that configuration in the application.properties. Okay. Server.port equal to 9090. That's up to you. Okay. So all the things can be done in the application.properties. If you want to configure the tomorrow's Eureka world, Eureka server configuration, any other external properties, the reference, all the things will go under the application properties. Okay. So it is basically giving you the configuration related information will go here, application properties. Okay. That's very important. And then we have a main application. Let's go back here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a small application for this hello world or a kind of hello world thing, then we will go for it. Okay, so for that, I'm not going to create a separate controller. Let's use the same application only. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple thing. I'm just declaring that particular class as a REST controller. Okay, so why REST controller? Don't worry, I have a very much detailed section. So now I want to give you a flavor or give you an understanding that how powerful the Spring Boot is for the development perspective. Okay, that's what I want to give. That is the main intention of this particular hands-on. Okay, later I will explain in detail what exactly this annotation is doing internally and why we are declaring the REST controller. Everything I will explain in detail. Don't worry, don't hurry. Just consume it. Okay, so now the point here is how easy we can bring up the Spring Boot application on the fly. That's the intention of this demo. Okay, that's why I'm putting this simple terms. The intention of the annotation I'll tell you later. Okay, don't worry. Okay, so now I want to expose the endpoint to the outside. Okay, to consume some, to client should consume my endpoint. I want to expose the endpoint, right? For that, I am annotating that particular class as a REST controller. What does it mean? It will be exposing the endpoint. Okay, so and then what I'm going to do, I am going to create a small method which is called just to say hello world. That's it. I'm not doing anything. Okay, for that what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a public string. Okay, maybe you can put it as anything, right? Like, yeah, we can put say hello world something. Okay, say world. So I'm just returning the same string. Okay, just I'm returning hello world. That's it, or demo something like that. Hello. That's it. Okay. So I have done nothing. What I have done in this method, I'm just a small Java method just to call the method. It will be printing the or returning back the hello world. That's it. Nothing else. Right? Very simple, right? Only thing after this, I have to map it. The request mapping. Maybe I'll say just a slash. That's fine. Sorry. Okay. You understand now, right? It's a simple Java method just to say return back the hello world. Okay. I'm going to when I have to call this method, that's very important, right? So I'm going to expose the endpoint. That's correct. So when I have to call this method, that's why we are going with the request mapping. So whenever the local host is coming into picture, right, then this particular method will be already invoked and it will return back the hello world, which will be being printed in my console postman or application. Okay, anyway, you can put it. That's it. I'm done with that demo. So what I have done ultimately, I just declare the REST controller to expose the endpoint to the outside world. And I just declared or created a new method just to say hello world. The method name is say hello world, which will be returning the small string that is hello world. And I want to map that particular method, right, to against the request. So for that, I am declaring with @request mapping, just putting the slash. You can put anything, say hello world, anything you can put, say hello. Anything you can put it, no problem. So what kind of endpoint I'm going to expose outside, that endpoint I need to expose it. Okay. Anything you can do, no problem. Okay. So now I have done the development. Now what I'm going to do, I'm right side at the Maven, right? You can see all the project lifecycle, plugin dependencies, all the things you can see. Okay. So now whenever you want to build your application, you can start with clean, just to clean the temp files or target folders. Okay. And then you can go for a compile, just to compile the pom.xml dependencies, all the things. If you want to package as a jar file, you can do with the package. And then if you want to install where all the test cases, integration test cases, unit test cases, code, everything will be being run and it will be ready for the deployment. Okay. So all the things are the you people are self-explanatory. I just want to just a recap of it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, it is auto build. So I don't want to worry about the compile. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I am going to run this main application. That's it. I said just a Java application. How do you run the Java application? Just right click, run as a Java application, right? Same way, I'm going to run this Spring Boot demo application, which is my Spring Boot application. I'm just running with run Spring Boot demo application. That's it. What will happen? We'll see. Okay. So the console will be start popping up where you can see exactly what is happening. Look at here. It is started the build and then the build will be deployed. The jar will be being deployed into the embedded Tomcat server. Okay. And then it started the Tomcat and then it is initializing the application web application context. And then the Tomcat is exposed, right? My application is started running in the port number 8080 of Tomcat server. Right? All the things are on the fly happen, right? So I just coded a few lines and just I ran. My application is deployed automatically. Right? Let's go back to the browser and see what we have typed. I'm just copying this alone. Say hello world. So now what I'm going to do, I am going to the web browser and then I'll show you. Okay, 1 minute. I'm just sharing this browser. What I'm going to do, HTTP, sorry, localhost 8080 and then slash what I have copied, say hello, right? Just saying. Look at here. Whatever the string I have written from the method where I have annotated is a request mapping as say hello, that is being written back to me, right? That's the power. See what I have, nothing, right? No configuration, addition, overburden, no external Tomcat reference, nothing I have done. I just gone back to the main method, main application, Spring Boot application. I just declare as a REST controller just to expose the endpoint and just create a small method just to return the hello world string. And then I annotated the method with the request mapping as say hello. That's it. My application is ready now. Within 2 minutes, right? Within 2 minutes of time, I just brought up my application in the Tomcat world. This is the power of the Spring Boot application. Within a span of time, I can able to build my microservices with the help of Spring Boot application, right? So Spring Boot is already taking care of everything. You just concentrate on only development. I will take care of rest of the things. That's to the news to the developers. That's why people are prefer to work with the Spring Boot. Okay. So now you understand. So how to start the Spring Boot application? What are the annotation? Maybe I'll go a little deeper. Maybe after the break. What is what? Okay. Then we will go back to another main hands-on where I'm going to explain in detail about what exactly initially transitive dependencies are being called out. Okay. So here I stopped actually. Let's go back for the, let's meet up 8015. Maybe let's meet up another 3 minutes. Now what's the time? 8:02 now. Let's meet up 8:05. Another 3 minutes. Okay. Let's have a small break. Let's regroup in another 3 minutes. Then we'll start the rest of the topic of the day. Okay. Looks fine, right? Comfortable now, right? So how do you comfortable? Everything is right. Any doubt so far? Please let me know. Any doubts, or if you want to talk to me, just raise your hand. I'll allow you to talk so that we will be understand fully. Any doubts? Okay, fine then. Let's have a break for another 2 minutes at least. Yeah, give me a second. I got a bit. Yeah, Rajesh. Thank you, Rajesh, for the reply. Thank you. Let's stop here for another 2 minutes at least. Okay, then you go back, refresh yourself, and come back. We'll continue the topic. Okay. I'm just keeping the mute. Hello. Yeah, it's 8:06 now. Let's start the rest of the things. Okay, I'm just sharing the PPT. Give me a second. So I have only one topic left actually. Let's see that also. Okay. Yeah. So now you feel comfortable with this, right? Good. So now the last slide of this day 3 actually. So now we have to understand the main important goal for the Spring Boot. Okay. So as I told you, it's a very quick development. So all the things will be taken care automatically. How it is already taken care automatically? Because of the starter projects. So I have not added the Tomcat as a dependency in my pom.xml, right? I have not added. Look at here. If I go back to my IntelliJ, how this Tomcat is coming into picture. I have not added it, right? If you go back to my pom.xml where I have explained you, I don't have a Tomcat entry, right? So I have not declared it. I just added the one type dependency just to expose my RESTful endpoints outside, right? So Spring Boot starter web as a main dependency, which have a embedded Tomcat server as a transitive dependency. For example, if I go back into this particular dependency, Spring Boot Starter Web 3.3.3 form, where you can see the what are the transitive dependencies are being declared. For example, if I want to go to the Tomcat, you can see here. So dependencies are being added, right? So Spring Boot started Tomcat as a internal transitive dependency being declared in this Spring Boot started web. So that is the way reason the main ultimate purpose is Spring Boot starter projects, right? Because of that only I am as a developer, I am not worrying about this boilerplate configuration in my pom.xml. Because if I declare the starter web in my pom.xml, it itself taking care of my Tomcat dependencies, right? So I don't want to copy that and coming into the main pom.xml. I don't want to paste it. It's unnecessary, right? Unnecessary. If, for example, I'm just copying, I'm putting, right? It's unnecessary, right? It's no need at all. It's taking care of my starter web project itself. That's the power of the starter projects. Like that, we have so many starter projects are there in Spring Boot world. Just to easy our development, speed to market. Okay, that's why this kind of boilerplate code or dependencies are avoided in the Spring Boot world. Okay, now you understand, right? So how the transitive dependencies are being worked in the Spring Boot world, right? Okay, it's just an example. Similarly, a lot of things are available actually. See, look at here. If you want to work on the JSON, it is also one of the transitive dependency when you declare the started web, right? So if you want to develop the Spring MVC, yes, it is also having the transitive dependency in the started web project. Okay, started is a main ultimate guy who is helping the developer to declare all the transitive internal dependencies as a internal dependencies. That's the power of the starter projects. Okay, whenever if you want to add multiple things, right, you don't need to worry about it. You just add that starter web, it itself taking care of the dependency, transitive dependencies. Okay, that's why it's very bad. I'm coming back to the slide again. 1 minute. Okay, so the quick development, how it is starter projects and auto configuration, whatever the transitive dependencies you want to put it into your project, that is called auto configuration. The transitive dependencies items or class path items which will be put it as a dependencies into your project. Okay, that's a quick development. Okay, and also dev tools are there. What is dev tools? If you want to auto build your code, right, after the changes, that is can be done by the dev tools. You don't want to restart the Tomcat every time after your Java changes. Dev tool will be identifier which will be monitoring your source code changes after the server startup. After the server startup, if you have done a small code change in the Java, this dev tool will monitoring that class file binary changes, and then it will automatically restart the Tomcat server, which is called dev tool functionality. So that the developer will be mainly focusing about the development only. No need to restart his Tomcat servers. It will be saving the time for the developer. Right? That's the most important goal for the Spring Boot as a quick development. So not only that, we have a production ready features like a monitoring tool by activating the actuators. And we have a environment configuration for make it production ready. And then we have a logging framework. Those are the production ready features to help the project to speed to market to earn the money, right? So those are the very important goal and advantages of the Spring Boot one should understand before developing the microservices. Okay, only then we can understand what exactly Spring Boot giving a favor for us. Okay, so are you people comfortable till this point? Any doubts, please ping me in the chat box. If you are clear, just type clear so that I can able to sync it up. If you have any other further doubts, you just raise the hand or you can just ping in the chat box so that we can clarify the doubts then and there. I got a ping from Shiva. Thank you, Shiva. You are clear. Happy about it. Yeah. Other participant, are you comfortable? Any doubts? Please let me know. Okay, that's about today's day 3 session. Maybe I'll be starting the other things. Maybe give me a second. I'm just sharing the further more topics. Maybe we'll have a look quickly. Okay, now the thing is we want to understand deeper how these starter projects are working all together, right? I shown you an example, right? So how the Spring MVC or Spring Web, once you declare as a starter project in your pom.xml, what are all the transitive dependencies are declared in the internal POM, right? So we saw the Tomcat and JSON as a or Web MVC as a transitive dependencies declared in the Spring started web, right? That particular pom.xml we saw. Okay, like that, so many are there. Okay, so we want to explore that also in the next another 45 minutes. Let's explore that. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to the continue this lecture. Maybe it is little theoretical, but tomorrow onwards, next week onwards, we have a high hands-on, less practical because I want to set the pre-request to you, right? So I have to give the technical jargon to you. Only then you feel comfortable. Only then you can connect with the when I'm starting the hands-on. Okay, otherwise you will be confused with the keywords what I'm typing in the IntelliJ. Okay, that's why I'm giving the technical jargons today. The next week onwards, we will be completely with the hands-on with the multiple projects. Okay, so now let's continue the time. Okay, so this is a motivational for the second session. Okay, so your limitation, it is only your imagination. Okay, so you have a lot of potential inside to explore, right? So just you don't have any limitation on your potential. Okay, that's ultimate goal. Okay, I have a small intermediate quizzes often as part of the session just to make you people engaged. Okay, so like that, if you people comfortable with the Spring framework, what I have explained you can able to answer it better. Okay, so question is, when we use the traditional Spring approach, everything is automatically configured for us. And the version of the dependencies are taken care of. Is that true statement or false statement? I'm talking about the traditional Spring approach. Everything is automatically configured for us. And the version of the dependencies also taken care of by the traditional Spring approach or not. Tell me, is true statement or false statement? How about others? Can you please type so that we will be comfortable? Yeah, I got a ping from Shiva and Rajesh. What about others people? Okay, I have cooker. Okay. Yes, that's true. Yes, correct. Correct, Shiva. And correct, Rajesh. Yes. The result is false. Because Spring World, everything we have to mention it manually, not automatically. But the Spring Boot World, we have a starter project that will be taking care of the versioning and auto configurations, right? That's good. Now let's talk about the Spring Boot starter project. Okay, so and then I'm going to walk through the pom.xml, what I have done already. And then I'm talking about the parent POM. What is parent POM? Right? And then we will be talking about the dependency managements, third-party libraries, and then simplifying the configuration. Okay. And then I have other quizzes also. So let's jump into the IntelliJ once again, and then we will be discussing more about the starter and parent POM. Okay. Let's go back. I'm going to the pom.xml of our main demo Spring Boot application, where I have a main dependencies for my project, which is nothing but the Spring Boot starter web. As I explained you, the Spring Boot starter web internally has a lot of dependencies being declared already, ready-made, ready. Just started JSON, started Tomcat, right? Spring MVC, everything we have seen already. All the transitive dependencies are already declared in the started web. If you want to interested on any of the transitive dependencies on this particular dependency, then you can go and include this started web in your pom.xml. That's it. Nothing else. If you added this particular dependency, all the internal dependencies are added and it will be auto configured by the Spring Boot startup. Okay, that's the one thing. And then we have a parent POM declaration in our main project. Okay, so what is the parent here? So parent POM is mainly used for mentioning the version. Look at here, we have not mentioned any of the versions, right? Look at here. So I don't have a version tag under my dependencies, right? I have only a group ID and then I have a artifact ID. Okay, I don't have a practice of mentioning the version tag under the dependency section. Okay, so where this version is being maintained and tracked, that's another question, right? So for that only, we have a parent tag, which is nothing but the artifact ID as a Spring Boot started parent. If you go to this particular parent form by clicking this tag, right? 1 minute. I think 1 minute. Give me a second, guys. I think it will be giving you the transitive dependencies. Give me a second. How do I go? I want to go to the target, generate. 1 minute, 1 minute. I think it's not clickable. Started web we saw. Maybe let's go back here. Maybe. For example, what I'm telling you, if you click on this particular thing, right? Artifact ID, you have a separate place to mentioning the POM. 1 minute. POM.boot. Everything is there. Look at here. Actually, you have a dependencies mentioned here. Version, what version you want to interested, because it's a Spring Boot starter version actually. So if you go back to your main pom.xml, you mentioned the version as a parent POM as a 3.3.3 as your parent starter web, right? So all your started web projects like Spring Boot starter web projects also will be pointing the dependency version as a 3.3. It's a Spring Boot started web projects dependency version. Okay, so 3.3.3. Now we have one more level where you can see exactly what kind of version about the parent POM. I'm just exploring that only. Give me a second. It's not clickable. I don't know. I think it's not clickable. One minute, give me a second. I think will it display? So we can put it as a web. We have a version tag. 1 minute. 3.3, 3.3, 17. No, 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 no. We can able to see that POM also. I'm just looking for that. It's not allowing me to open the POM dot. Let me open the POM dot XML classes. All. No, no, I'm not able to go to the parent POM. I don't know. I'm not able to go inside at all. Okay, no problem. I'll just explain you. Okay, so inside the POM, parent POM, we can see the pom.xml. Okay, where you can, maybe I'll go back to the net, maybe. Give me a second. I'll go and explain in detail there. See what I'll do. Let's go back to the internet where you can see the POM, parent POM. Okay, how the looks like. Yeah, let me go anything. Let's click this one. How the parent POM looks like. Okay, we'll see. For example, in the parent POM, how it is looks like, right? So I'm adding the dependency as a parent POM. It's nothing but the parent tag I shown you, right? In the parent POM, it should be declared as a parent as a tag. That means it's a parent tag. Okay, inside the parent tag, you have a separate dedicated MVC, like any of the dependencies also will be declared actually. Give me a second. I'm going to that 3.5, right? 1 minute. Without parent started. No, it is not clear, very clear actually. We have put it as a 3.1. Maybe I'll put a sample better. Sample parent pom.xml spring boot. Okay, let me open that. Maybe we'll go for image also. That's fine. Yeah. No, it's not clear. It's not clear. Okay. I think it's not clear actually. This one you can take it up. Yeah. For example, if I give here, right? Maybe. So this is the what it looks like. When you declare the parent mom, in the parent POM, you have your properties like this. All the transitive version will be being declared. This is without POM. This is a with POM, parent POM. Okay. So you have here something like a property like this, where you can see all the version will be being declared actually. Okay. Maybe our next session I will tell you how you can see. It's not very much clear here, any other documentation. I want to go a little deeper. I don't know where to find that. Okay, no problem. No problem. Let's stop here. Maybe I'll go back to IntelliJ again. Okay, so ultimately what I'm trying to say, when you want to visit the parent mom, in the parent mom, all the version will be being maintained. Okay, what version of the what? It is being declared ultimately. Why I'm not able to go? Okay, fine. Maybe the IntelliJ setup I need to do something. Okay, so no problem. So you just understand, consume the point. Okay, so whenever you want to see the version of the exact dependency, you visit the parent POM. Okay, that's the main ultimate. In the parent POM is the one who is maintaining the version of the all your dependencies. It's in terms of Tomcat, or in terms of your embedded like JSON, Jackson, Faster Library, or JPA, or whatever that Postgres or Oracle database vendor dependencies, all the version will be keep maintained in the parent POM. Okay, that's very much ultimate takeaway. And second thing, if you want to share any of the main dependencies across your project, right? Better you can go and add that dependency in the parent POM. Okay. So what will happen, as it is kind of a parent class child, right? Parent child relationship in the Java world. Okay. So if I have declare the method in the parent class, okay, that method will be already transmitted into the child classes, right? The same way, whenever you are declaring any of the main dependency you would like to transmit to other the project module who is inheriting this my parent POM, that time you go to the parent POM and declare the dependencies which one you want to move on to all your project modules, right? Whoever imported the parent, right? Just declare that in the parent POM, and then you just declare this parent tag in your main project. That's it. All the transitive dependencies what you have declared in the parent POM, which will be added as a dependency to your subjective microservices project. Okay, very simple takeaway, right? Two takeaways. One is where the version is being maintained, where nothing but in the parent POM. Second takeaway is like whenever you want to transmitting the dependency to the subsequent microservices module, whoever imported this particular parent POM, then that time in the parent POM you just declare it. Okay, that dependency you just declare in the parent POM. This transmission will be happen into respective microservices. Okay, there are two takeaways today. Okay, and then we understand the power of the starter project. So whenever you are adding the starter project, the transitive dependencies are already being downloaded and put it into the external library, which is nothing but the auto configuration. Okay, look at here. I just added the Spring Boot started web as a one of the dependency. Okay, what are the dependencies are being declared? Downloaded. Look at here actually. Okay, if you go here, uh, Oracle, okay, Spring Boot, Apache, Tomcat. So look at here, the Tomcat is being downloaded. Why it is being downloaded? Because of my started web having a transitive dependencies of the Tomcat, embedded Tomcat version, right? That is why it is declared. And not only that, you can see the faster XML, Jackson core, everything which is a transitive dependency to the my started web project, right? That's why all the projects, right? Transitive projects are being downloaded by my Spring Boot auto configuration properties. Okay, you understand now, right? So not only that, you can see furthermore drill down. I can see, look at here, the logger, started test, started Tomcat, auto configuration, Spring Boot 3. This is the version we are declared as part of 3.33 as a Spring Boot version. So related to the project dependencies are being downloaded into the external libraries. On the fly, this dependencies will be added into the project startup and then make the things done for us. Okay, easy, right? Any doubt so far? What is what? So all the dependencies, transitive dependencies are found and downloaded as a external library at the time of startup, right? Tomcat startup. These dependencies will be bundled together as a jar and then started with that. And JUnit, it's a JFrame, it's a started test as the transitive dependency. That's why the JUnit is being added. We are using the JUnit Jupyter 5, which is nothing but the JUnit 5 as a transitive dependency for the testing framework, Spring Boot test framework. Okay. Are you clear about that parent POM? What is the advantages of parent POM? Okay. Any doubts so far? Please ping me in the chat box so that we'll continue the things. So I'm just going back to the PPT again. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about the respective topics rest of the day. 1 minute. Yeah. So now let me go to the slide, okay, where I'm talked about the pom.xml and plugin management. Okay, so now I have a quiz. Please help me to answer which of the following feature of Spring Boot uses pom.xml. I have an option to select Spring Starter, auto configuration, Spring Boot actuators, or embedded containers. Okay, I'm just repeating the question. Which of the following feature of the Spring Boot uses pom.xml? I'm talking about pom.xml. So what is the option you can able to think through? You can able to guess this. Which of the following feature of the Spring Boot uses pom.xml? We were mainly talking about pom.xml, right? So what is the jargon I was telling you? You can able to recollect. Any doubts on this? I got a ping from Rajesh. Yeah. How about others? Shiva, are you clear? Kokari, are you clear? That's right. That's right, Shiva and Shajesh. Yeah. So we were talking about the Spring starters where mainly we are declaring in the pom.xml. Why we are using the starter? Starter is the main feature where you don't want to do the boilerplate kind of configuration, right? So you don't want to manually declaring the Tomcat servers, Jackson libraries, right? You don't want. Instead of that, if you add the starter project as a dependency to your project, then all the transitive dependencies are being declared and downloaded by the Maven as an external dependency by the auto configuration. So that's the power of the starter projects. Okay, that's about this particular quiz. Yes. And then we were talking about the Spring Boot application annotation. Maybe I'll give you an overview. Maybe next class onwards, I'll go more dive into it. Okay, deep dive into it. Okay, so it is a key annotation. Okay, one should have to identify it is a main application. Okay, Spring Boot main application. That's why it's a key annotation. It's kind of convention over configuration. Okay, you just keep annotate. Okay, you just declare that as a main application. Okay, that's called convention over configuration. Okay, this particular annotation combination of three important annotation that is called Spring Boot configuration, enable auto configuration, and component scan. Okay, this combine all together as a Spring Boot application. Okay, this entry, if you click on the Spring Boot application in the IntelliJ, you can get all the three. For example, if I go back to my IntelliJ and then I'm going to the main application that is called Spring Boot application, right? If I click that, it will give you the all the set of information like Spring Boot configuration, enable auto configuration, and what components scan. This is the main three annotations. Okay, let me go back to the IntelliJ again. Sorry, Spring PPT again. So we are talking about this, right? So let's go individual annotation. Okay, let's talk about the Spring Boot configuration. Okay, so when just remember, whenever you are annotating the class with at configuration, it means it will be look for the beans definition for the application context. Okay, so I'm just repeating the word. The at whenever you class is annotated with the any of the Spring Boot configuration or at configuration, it's a source of bean definitions or being declared in that particular class for the application context. So Spring, the dependency management or Spring application dependency management will be read that property and then it will be treated as a source of bean definition for the application context. Very simple, right? And then we will be talking about the enable auto configuration. What is that enable configuration? Okay, so all the dependencies defined in the class path will be configured. So for example, as I told you, when I am adding the dependencies as a started web, right? Spring started web. What is happening? All the transitive dependencies are being downloaded by the Maven and put it as a class path dependencies. Okay, for example, I was giving you that Spring Web, all the dispatcher servers are being configured. If I declare the MySQL as my dependency, the data source and entity managers are being auto configured. That is the power of the auto configuration annotation. And then we were talking about the components. What is component scan? Actually, it automatically scan for the Spring Boots in the specified package. For example, in my main application, I have annotated with the at component scan, right? It will be looking for the in subfolder or main folder. It will look for the annotation called at component, at controller, at service, or at bean, or at repository. If any of the class is annotated with this kind of annotation, then it will be treated as a bean and registered as a Spring Bean in his container. I'm just repeating the once again. Whenever the declared the class with component scan, it will look for the properties or annotation declared with the class with at component, at controller, at service, at repository, at bean, which will be scanned completely in the project and then registered that as a Spring Bean in the Spring container. Okay, this is the properties of at Spring Boot application. Okay, again I'm going back to the slide. This is what I'm meaning. Okay, at Spring Boot application, which is internally containing three annotations: one for the auto configuration, another one for a Spring Boot configuration, and last one is a component scan. Okay, so all the properties are important. One should have to start up the application properties, application server. Okay, so then we talk about the embedded server. Okay, as I told you, when you are declaring the started Spring Web as a dependency, automatically Tomcat is coming along with the as a embedded server, default embedded server. That makes the developer life easy to deploy it easy on the fly and make it test the application very quickly. We saw the demo also, right? That's the power of the Spring Boot. We can also free to change the server from Tomcat to other application server by changing the configuration. That's it. By changing the configuration, one can change the default Tomcat server to whatever the desired server. We can able to quickly move it. Got it right? Oh, sorry, I disconnected the PPT. Okay, so now you understand what is the embedded server, what is the advantage of Spring Boot, right? And then we will talk about the Spring Dev Tool. But now I'm giving the overview. I am going to detail hands-on in the next classes. Okay, next weekend class. I'm going to explain, but I want to give the flavor of the Spring Boot. What are all the features are available? How it will be useful for the developer to speed up the development. So that's why I'm giving a overview to you. Don't worry, I have everything in the hands-on session. I'm giving the heads up now. Okay. So now let's talk about the Spring Dev Tool. As I told you, you don't want to restart the Tomcats after your code change. The dev tool will identify the binary change of the Java and then it will automatically restart the Tomcat server instance. By that, developer can save the time, right? He don't want to, he can mainly focusing on his development work and stop doing that kind of startup. All the jar, latest jar will be being pulled out by the Spring framework itself. So your changes are being reflected on the fly by enabling this Spring Dev Tool properties in the pom.xml. I'm just reading out, increasing the developer productivity. No manual restart for every code changes. How this will be enabled? Add the required dependency in the pom.xml like this. That's it. Then if you enable this particular property, this will be monitoring the source code change. Based on that, it will be restart your embedded Tomcat instance. Right? That's the power of the Spring Boot properties. One of the feature that is called dev tools. Okay. So I have some kind of interview questions to cover up. Maybe it may be helpful for you guys. Okay. So as I told you, what is at component scan? It's a frequent entry question. By default, it scans the package of the class annotation annotated with at component scan. Yes, we can change the configuration to scan other properties as well. So by default, your main Spring, I'm going back to the code once again so that you people can understand it a bit more. So for example, if I go back to the main application, you can see this is my main application, right? I'm just summing up. Let me go to that place, src, main, Java, I have a main application, right? So whenever you are annotating with at component scan, it will look for the class should be present in this folder structure or subfolder structure. Okay. Those classes will be created as a bean and injected into the Spring application context. That's what it means. By default, it scans the packages of the class and then which is annotated with the at component scan. We can able to change that property. Yes, you can change by configuring to scan other packages as well. Okay. And then the second question is exclude attribute in Spring Boot annotation. What is that? By default, all the bean dependencies are registered. Okay. So whatever the bean you declare, all the dependencies or classes are annotated with the controller, all the bean will be created on the fly when the Spring Boot starting up. If you want to exclude any of the bean declaration, you have to use the attribute called exclude, so that while starting up the server, this property or bean can be excluded. Okay, that's a very important question. One should understand. And then how to configuring the Jetty server instead of the default Tomcat server. Another question, important question. As I told you, the Tomcat server is a default embedded server along with the Spring Boot application, right? If I want to interested to add the Jetty server, then what I should do? Yes, the Spring Boot is providing the framework for tweaking their property. How to do that? We have a exclusion tag where you have to mention the Tomcat so that your Tomcat dependency will be excluded. Okay, which is coming along with the started Spring Web framework, right? As a dependency, transitive dependency. You have to mention the exclusion tag under Spring Web started project. That's the point number one. Point number two, you have to specifically add the Jetty server dependency in the pom.xml. This two action you have to do by configuring the Jetty server. Okay, very important question. I have faced it many times to the junior developers. Okay, so whenever I'm entering this kind of question, right, this is a very important question. So all the three are very important as part of the today scope. Okay, so that's how I cover the classes actually. So whenever I'm teaching the concepts, I used to give the interview questions to you people so that you will be strong the concept along with the interview preparations also, so that you can easily nail down the interview at the end of the session, end of the course. That's the ultimate aim of it. Any clarification so far, please let me know. I'm ready to help you people. You can ping me in the chat box or you can raise a hand. We can talk each other. We have some time. We have another 13 minutes of time, good amount of time where we can discuss if you want, or we can wind up the class. I'm done with the topic today. Please let me know if you have any clarification, any doubt so far. We have done 2 demo classes, lot of good concepts. We have a small demo class. So, going forward, we have a lot of hands-ons actually. Okay, so it's a base, right? It's a today and yesterday was a base class where you have to understand the technical jargons. What is what? So what that's a prerequisite to go for a hands-on. That's why it's kind of 90-10 kind of proportion. 90% technical theory, 10% is a hands-on. But going forward, it's not like that. It's going to be ulta. 70% will be a kind of hands-on, 30% will be kind of theoretical. Okay, so we have a lot of more hands-ons with all the concepts, more fun, I say ultimately. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. We have a lot of fun in the subsequent classes, lot of learning. Okay, so that's it from my end actually. Okay, so if you are interested or you are admire with the way of teaching, right? You can enroll the course and you can continue and travel with me. I'll guarantee that I can show you more technical hands-ons and giving you the clear picture about the Spring Boot and microservices. Any doubts? I'm completely done with my day today. Any doubts? I'm happy to help you people. Just ping me the chat box. If you are comfortable, all fine from your end, you can free to drop. It was nice talking to you people. I'm hoping to see you in the main session. So we will be sharing the PPT. I don't know. The PPT can be shared. I don't know. Maybe I need to check with the team. Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, we are done for the day and keen looking forward to meet up in the main class. Any doubts, you can ping me, you can reach me, no problem. I will help you in either of the way. I want to make sure all the concepts are understood by you people. That's very important for me. Okay, fine. No doubt so far. I'm happy about it. You are strong in the concept what I teach. Thank you for that. And once again, all the very best for your future endeavor. Let's catch up. Thank you. Happy weekend. Bye bye.